Hi, everyone, and thank goodness it's SEO Friday. And I have with me Radiant Freedom, Jason Ross. I've been working with Jason for quite some time, learning the ins and outs of SEO, of website development, and he's been so kind enough to allow us to get inside his mind over the next number of weeks to learn how we ourselves can do search engine optimization, or better yet, how we can learn it and then outsource it to someone like Jason who can do it for us. Jason, please give us some information on SEO today, and it's just a wonderful to have you here. Thank you very, very much.
Yeah, and thank you for inviting me here for this opportunity to present and share my knowledge with all of you. So,
welcome.
And what we'll do is start from the basics. So we'll look at So what we'll do is look at, on lesson one, part one, as this will be a multi-lesson affair. And what we'll do is go through part one. At the end of part one, we'll have a little Q&A period. Then we'll move into part two. So part one will be introducing you to what SEO is, how does it work, what are the main goals of search engines, so that you understand from the other end of SEO what the search engines that you're wanting to rank yourself up in want. And then we'll also go over some key terms, because one of the biggest things that'll prevent a person from learning something is when they don't know what the terms mean.
And Jason, if I have any questions or any questions come in, I can ask those to you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you.
And also the participants are welcome to unmute themselves when we're ready to take questions. You can also put your question in the chat, whichever you prefer. So we'll start with, what is SEO? So SEO stands for search engine optimization, and it is a set of techniques designed to help websites rank higher in search engines like Google, Bing, and Yahoo. And what is the main goal of search engine optimization? Is ultimately it's to get your site to rank number one in a particular set of search terms that are relevant to your business. But generally, even a top 10 result is good and will get you, a good supply of traffic for the right search terms. So how does it work? Well, what we'll do is, by applying the techniques and strategies we'll be covering in these lessons during this series of webinars, you begin to rank your website up the rankings until you finally hit that first page on the search engines, which is a top 10 result.
How long does that take usually?
I'll be getting into that momentarily
Okay.
as we go through this. So assuming you choose a winning strategy and are willing to adapt to changes, challenges, and setbacks, SEO is a long-term strategy, and so you got to be patient and allow minimum 6 months. It can also take a year or more as well for you to start seeing significant results. That all really depends on your particular market, how competitive it is, and what search terms you're trying to rank up for and how competitive they are, which are things that we'll be getting into how you assess all that in future episodes when we start looking in more detail at things like keywords and how to do keyword research. So now let's look at, from the search engine's perspective, what are the main goals of a search engine? Well, the main goal of any search engine is to deliver a list of relevant results to any search. If a search engine fails to do this, people will leave that search engine and look for another search engine that will deliver irrelevant results. Since search engines make their money off of paid ads in the search and people clicking on those ads, if people are not using that search engine, they won't make any money and they'll go out of business. So it's in their best interest to make sure they deliver the best results possible, for people using their search engine. That means delivering results that are relevant, interesting, and engaging when people go to those results. Now, search engines have been around for quite some time at this point. Some of the earliest search engines came around in the at the dawn of the internet around the early to mid 90s.
Was that AOL?
That
AOL
would
Online?
be probably one of the first major search engines was actually Alta Vista.
Oh, right. I remember that from
Which,
from like the early 90s.
yeah, they really dominated the search engine market in the 90s.
Yeah.
Essentially, they were the Google of the 1990s.
Yeah, that's funny. Man, I
And
haven't heard Ultra Vista for such a long time. That's hilarious.
yeah,
But
yeah, I think they're out of business now.
Google is
But
one clearly, and then you have Yahoo, you have Bing, you've got what are some other major ones that we're talking about?
those are really the big three. That beyond that, there's for a while there
Firefox.
was. Hmm?
Firefox is a search engine, isn't it?
It's a browser.
Oh, browser. Oh, okay. Okay, perfect.
But yeah, there were some other ones like Ask was making some good ground until Google bought them out.
Right. Yeah. Cool. So, so a
So
search engine is a place where you're able to post ads and so on. Like, because you mentioned the difference between a browser and a search engine. So when I open up Google Chrome and Google comes up, Chrome itself is just what is that? A browser then?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. So a browser is basically a program you use to access the internet that that basically takes the programming language of the internet and converts it into a human readable format that's by displaying all the graphics, the words, the links, everything all in the right place and making sure everything behaves the way we expect it to.
And so,
So
so when you say 6 to 12 months, when we do the search engine optimization, does that mean that it'll go up on all of these search places, like on Bing, on Yahoo, on Google, and so on?
it will eventually. It takes time, which is something I'll be getting into a little bit further down the line here
Okay.
on how that all works when I start talking a little bit more about the keywords, which we'll be covering in part 2 of this lesson.
Okay. Cool. Cool. All right.
So
Thank you.
so with the goal of the search engine then is, so as I said, they've been around for quite some time, so they've gotten very good at figuring out based on what's on your web page what it's what ones are most relevant for what particular search. And even since the beginning of search engines, there have always been certain types of cheats and loopholes that marketers can use to try and trick the search engines into displaying a page higher than it normally would. However, search engines are also constantly searching for ways to update their system and fix those loopholes and cheats. And when people continue to violate those loopholes, they'll actively seek for ways to punish offenders. Some examples of the way they might punish an offender would be they'll limit how high they can rank, so you might not be able to rank higher than 31st in search results, or they might penalize you so that you get bumped further down the rankings. So, in other words, it doesn't necessarily pay to cheat. Plus, when you're doing cheats, that's really not serving the people using the searches who are your potential customers. So here's some examples of ways that they might punish you. They could flag your website for search results. So some examples of reasons why they might flag your site is if they detect malicious code on your site, which could be a sign your site's been hacked, or that someone's running a attack site. There, they'll apply, as I said, penalties so that you'll be pushed further down the ranking. So if you'd normally, let's say, rank in 5th spot, they might bump you down to 10th spot or 15th spot. So it just makes it much, much harder for you to move up the rankings. And if you're a really bad offender, in the worst case, they might even delist your site so you won't appear in any searches at all.
Wow.
And that's generally reserved for sites that are very heavily spammy, that are hacked, look like they're showing the behavior of a malicious attack site that's maybe there to trick visitors into handing over personal information for identity theft and other criminal activity.
Jeez, I had no idea that stuff even exists. Huh.
And
Wow.
And another case is if a site just is spamming, their links all over the place like crazy, in which case Google might, and other search engines might decide, okay, this is a spam site and remove them from the lists. So now what we're going to do is move into defining some of the key terms that we'll be using throughout this series. And some of these are terms that you'll also find on when you're talking to an SEO expert or doing any of your own research on SEO. And as I said before, one of the leading reasons why a person fails to learn or understand something is when they don't know what the terms mean, so they have a misunderstood word. So first and foremost, we'll look at the term keywords because that's plastered all over search engine optimization. And what keywords are is they are the words or search terms a person uses in a search engine to find something, such as some bit of information or a solution to a problem they're having. Backlinks, now those are links from another website to yours. Each of these is rated for how good the link is and shows a vote of confidence in your website's contents. And this will be the topic covered in more detail in a future topic. Now, Google also has their own internal ranking system that they use to actually measure how what you call authoritative a website is, which basically means how many other websites, including high authority websites themselves, have linked to your website and have said that we think your contents are good and worth going and checking out. So there's really two main ones as page rank and domain rank. They're both similar idea. The main difference is page rank is for how authoritative a single web page is, whereas domain rank is for an entire website. So it might be, for example, how authoritative, let's say, CanadianMarketingTeam.com website is. And basically, the more websites that link to your site in general, the higher your score will be. Now, with Google does their ratings, theirs are done on a scale of 0 to 5, with, of course, 5 being the most authoritative and 0 being the least.
How do you find this information out?
Well, this particular information is actually pretty difficult to find. Okay. And as Google only releases this information on very infrequently, so oftentimes it's outdated and obsolete.
Oh.
Which is why another website called Moz came up with an alternate system, which is very accurate at approximating what Google's own internal rankings are. And you can check this out at moz.com.
Wow, cool.
And we will actually be going through a live demonstration in a future webinar.
Oh, exciting. Cool.
Yeah. So they called theirs page authority and domain authority. Now, page authority is the equivalent of Google's page rank, and domain authority is the equivalent of Google's domain rank. The main difference between the two is that Moz decided to use a scale from 0 to 100, which is actually good for us because that means that we get a more accurate scale, so we can get a more detailed look at how authoritative a website is. Now, the way the scaling works is it actually increases on what you call a logarithmic scale. So basically, the lower numbers are easier to increase with fewer and lower quality links than the higher numbers. So a website like Amazon, for example, their authority ranking is is up over 95. So it's going to take thousands and thousands of links for them to move up even one to the next highest point on the ranking scale.
So when you mean link, and I'm trying to understand this because I'm not experienced like you are at SEO. When you say a link, does that mean that another website links to your website, or your website links to that website?
It's another website linking to yours.
Okay.
And that is actually something we'll be covering in 2 weeks' time from now when we talk about backlinks in more detail.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah. So right now I'm just kind of scratching the surface, is mainly defining some terms.
I'm looking. My mind is anxiously wanting more information. So you've got me sitting on the edge of my seat, paying complete attention, and my mind is asking great questions, that I don't know. So this is exactly what you want, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. Now, let's say you have a brand new website that has no links leading into it because you just published it today, your ranking will generally start at a 0, which basically means that your site hasn't, which generally that means the search engines are unaware of your site at this point. So you won't be appearing in any searches yet until they've had a chance to go through and index your site, that's done by programs that'll basically crawl through the web looking for new web pages, websites, changes to existing pages, and then they'll decide, what searches it should be listed in and how high it should rank in those searches. So when you're at that level there, even a single link from even another, low authority website that maybe has an authority rating of 10, 15, or 20 could bump you up by as much as 5 or 10 points.
Wow.
And then, so getting that, I'd say getting up to 20 on the authority rating based on Moz's scale, it is fairly easy to do. Where it starts getting challenging is when you start wanting to get your rank above 30, where you need to start really working at getting those links coming in.
So you're spending more time to do that, essentially.
Yes, and you need to start looking for higher quality website.
Interesting.
But like I said, that's something we'll get into in more detail later.
Yeah.
And same thing with this next term, which is called silo structure, or sometimes shortened to siloing, which is a way of organizing the pages of a website into specific topics. And this helps search engines index your site's contents more effectively and thus determine what searches it should rank for and how highly. Now, another thing this also does is it does also concentrate the amount of authority you get from links to a specific page, based on, the way it's been siloed, so that and I'll show actually a bit of an example in the next slide. And again, this is something that we'll be covering in a full topic in great detail in one of our future webinars in this series.
So let's say there was a public relations company that wanted to become number one on Google listing, but right now the website they have is only ranking on the 10th page. What do they need to do in order to start ranking number one? They have to, first of all, perhaps update their website and focus on a silo structure. Is that kind of what I'm understanding?
Yeah, so silo structure is essentially something you do at the beginning of the SEO process.
Interesting.
That's sort of part of the back end stuff that you do. There's a few other things that we can get into as we start getting down into the more nitty-gritty details. But this is an example of what a silo structure would look like.
Oh, wow.
So essentially what you have is your home page would be the top of your silo. Then you might have, on a basic website, you might have an about silo with maybe your about page, your company's mission, your team members. And you might have a services silo, or it could be a product silo if you're a product-based business, which would have all your different products or services listed in there, each perhaps as a separate page or grouped with a set of related products, each on their own page. Then you might have your blog silo where you put all your articles in there. Now, each of these silos could also be the parent of another sub-silo itself. So, for example, your blog, you might also organize it into categories. So, for a PR firm, you might have, for example, a set of blog articles about
crisis communication, let's say.
About media relations, another set about crisis communications.
Perfect.
And you might have a third set about, say, general public relations.
Great. Maybe how about putting together your media kit, something cool like that?
Yeah, that could be, some, specific article that might appear.
Writing your press release, how to write your press release in 5 simple steps.
Yeah, those would be examples.
That's my marketing background coming out now.
Yeah, those would be examples of specific topics you might cover in your articles.
Cool.
And we'll actually be getting into that in part 2 of this lesson.
Wow.
Shortly.
Nice.
Now, the next term that you'll hear often, both from web developers' perspective as well as marketing, is traffic. For websites, that's a measure of how many visitors got to your website over a particular period of time. And it's also can sometimes be referred to as hits or visits.
And that's Google Analytics you're talking about, or Yahoo,
yes.
or Yahoo Analytics, or Bing
Analytics? That's any analytics that's basically measuring how many people went to your website.
Mhm.
The next term you'll often might hear is called bounce. And that refers to a person who visits your website and then leaves from the same page without interacting with your website.
That's a no-no.
And
You don't want
exactly. In
that.
general terms, that's bad. Because what
Yeah.
that means is that your website was unengaging.
Yeah.
And often search engines will actually account for that in their algorithms because they don't want people hitting an unengaging site.
And that's where the Canadian marketing team comes in with and working with you and putting together loss leaders and special offers and freebies and incredible value and so on. So we keep people on the site.
And calls to action menu systems, anything that gives people ways to move around and navigate your website, interact with it,
Mm.
is going to help to reduce your bounce rate. That and also simply good quality contents
Mm-hmm.
so that people get on there and they want to read it and want to visit all your pages, your articles.
So ideally, we want to create a very valuable news source for individuals that they can count on.
Exactly.
Mm.
And this really leads to the next term, which is called bounce rate, which basically refers to the percentage of total visitors who bounced. And on a typical website, on average, you're looking at usually it's going to be somewhere between 30 and 40% is okay. It may vary according by different industries and different types of websites. So, for example, a landing page type site might have a much higher bounce rate just because it's a single page site. And even a normal website that's done as a single page design might carry a higher bounce rate than normal just because people are based on the analytics, it looks like they're not interacting with your site even if they really are.
Hmm. So
So
there's
that
pros and cons between following marketing trends versus following SEO trends. They could actually conflict in some cases.
exactly.
Interesting.
So there's
Interesting.
always, and in fact, actually,
So you could
continuing.
create. So what you're saying is you could create landing pages that that work for driving traffic and may have a high bounce rate, but you can also create a corporate website that doesn't have a high bounce rate because what we're doing is we're using a different strategy. So there is a difference
Exactly.
between creating a sales funnel and having an SEO corporate website that ranks very high for people when they're doing search engine for whatever terms.
Exactly. And if you
Okay,
were,
cool.
let's say,
Getting it.
and if you were, say, creating a web page specifically to get people to sign up to an email list,
Mm-hmm.
then, and let's say it gets let's say a 10% conversion rate, so 1 in 10 people that visit that page subscribe, which is actually a very decently converting page for that.
Mm-hmm.
There, and then that means your site's going to probably have a 90% bounce rate, which is going to look very high to search engines.
Interesting. Huh.
So
So you can reduce that by putting more valuable content.
yes, as well as just giving people more things to do on your site.
Cool.
Now, the worst case scenario for creating a false bounce rate is actually the continuous infinite scrolling sites like what, for example, Facebook does on their news feed and most other social media sites on their news feed will do. Because then a person goes on the site and they can just keep scrolling down and down and down and down, and they'll be interacting with the site because they'll be looking at posts and articles and content, but they aren't clicking anything, so it doesn't look like, based on the stats, that they're interacting with anything.
Hmm. Maybe.
So
Yeah. Oh, fascinating.
yeah.
Wow.
So anyways, so look, moving on with our terms, we have
You're
click-through rate.
opening my mind, Jason. So I'm enjoying the process. I've always wanted to learn more about SEO, and you're providing me that. And for everyone, actually, this is
Yeah,
great information. Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad to help with that. Now, next term we have is click-through rate. And what that is, that's a percentage of the number of people who visited a page with a link on it and who clicked on that link. So a couple of specific ways that can apply is on search results pages. This is how many times your page was displayed in a search versus how many times someone clicked on it. And for a web page, this is how many times someone loaded that page and then clicked on a particular link on that page, such as, for example, going to the homepage on your website and then clicking on the menu link to your Contact Us page. So let's say if for every 10 people that visited your homepage, one of them clicked on your Contact Us menu link, then that menu item would have a 10% click-through rate. So that covers everything from part 1 of lesson 1.
Perfect.
So what we're going to do is open it up to all the participants. If any of you have any questions at this point, we'll take a few minutes to answer them.
I'm just eager to move on. I was asking questions the whole way through, Jason.
Yeah. So David, Robert, if either of you have any questions, you're welcome to unmute yourself and ask away.
I think we all just want to know how we can apply it to our situations, or either that, or find out how we can have you help us make our process better. Both. We want both.
All right. Awesome. Well, then continuing on to part 2 of lesson 1, and this part will be covering keywords. So this is where we'll be getting into more detail of some of the things that Odin was asking about previously.
Hey, Jason, we are at 12:30 right now, and I said that we'd only talk until 12:30. And did you want to perhaps? Oh, that's for next time, is what you're saying anyway. Ha! Okay, great.
Yeah, we can certainly pick this up, in 2 weeks from now. And also, if any of you want to, review any of what we discussed here, of course, Odin has been recording it, and both myself and Odin will be publishing this material to our YouTube pages.
Yep.
You're welcome to head over to our YouTube channels. Well, we can.
And also, you offer what's called a search engine optimization review, where you actually go and you review. It's, I think, about 5 different points you review for them, and then what you do is you give them an overall score on how their current website's doing. Right, and that's an offer. That's a service you offer for free. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So basically what I'll do is take a look at some of the main things that can affect how well your site does with search engines and conversions. So I'll look at how long does it take for your site to load, because a slow loading time can lead to actually a high bounce rate.
Mm-hmm.
Because statistically, if a site takes more than 5 seconds particularly your homepage is the most critical, is if it takes more than 5 seconds for that page to load, then chances are the majority of people visiting it are going to, or at least a good percentage of them, are going to leave and look for a faster site to visit, because they'll just get impatient.
Awesome. So if we want to take you up on that offer, we can essentially get a hold of you. How? On Facebook, on LinkedIn, on...
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. You can also email me at jasonross@radiantfreedom.com.
That's JASON
ROSS
at radiantfreedom, the way it's spelled right here, .com.
Yes, and you're also welcome to visit my website, radiantfreedom.com. You can also fill in the contact form there, which will also send an email to me.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, I think it would be wise if we continued with the rest of the presentation in our next time, and get more people on here. And I think that I love today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And it was a pleasure being on here and presenting with everyone that showed up today.
Awesome. And I'm going to stop the recording, and thanks everyone for being here.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to our next session on, I believe it's March the 9th.
Yeah. Some in 2 weeks from now, we'll just say. Yeah.
Yes, which I'll...
In 2 weeks from now. Perfect, everyone. I'll stop the recording, and...
So yes, that is March the 9th.